we are going to start with the story about what I think is a giant psyop.
Psyops.
All right. Vice.com. Headline here. Small device currently on Mars is generating as much oxygen as a tree, scientists reveal. Now, I know there's a lot of people listening, watching who are more of the skeptical type about the moon landing and things of that nature. I tend to be of that mind and just asking questions, just not believing everything we've been told about all of space and everything else. I am not a scientist. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a cosmologist. I only understand it in layman's level, but there are certain things that just don't add up, especially with NASA losing the technology to get to the moon. I mean, it doesn't make much sense. There was also the video a few years ago that got passed around in the alt sort of fringy space where there's like a guy, I think it was like an official NASA video where he's like, oh, we got to figure out how to get through the Van Allen belt because, there's a lot of radiation there. And we got to figure out how to get through it. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I thought you guys figured that out in 1967 or something and then went to the moon in 1969. So a lot of just questions. Just take all this with a grain of salt. Again, the thing that we do here on Canary Cry NewsTalk is not just read the news and tell you what's happening in the news. It's to teach or just at least think critically about what's being presented in mainstream news. So again, Vice. Small device currently on Mars is generating as much oxygen as a tree, scientists reveal. And here's what the article says. If you thought packing a car for a cross-country move was hard, packing a space shuttle for a move to Mars will be a new kind of headache. In addition to bringing items like food and water, spaceships heading to the Red Planet will also need to bring scientific experiments, emergency supplies, and living habitats. Luckily for these pioneering astronauts, though, it looks like one of the heaviest and most important resources will be provided on site: oxygen. In fact, a lunchbox-sized device currently on the surface of Mars is already reliably generating as much oxygen as a tree, scientists revealed on Wednesday. Oxygen will be important not only to provide astronauts breathable air when they're off-planet. Yeah, it's kind of important. If you're allegedly on another planet, oxygen will be important. See, this is where I start thinking, like, where these humans talking? Oxygen really shall be important for you, but also to help fuel rockets to eventually take them back to Earth. In a new paper published on Wednesday in the journal Science Advances, researchers from MIT explain how a small experiment roaming Mars on the back of NASA's Perseverance rover is proof. It's proof, everybody, that it's possible to create oxygen from the Martian atmosphere. And it gets into MOXIE, which is the name of the device. Now I'm going to go to the full article. I had it in the text version for those of you watching. If you just go to the actual website there's a photo of MOXIE, this device that is allegedly providing the oxygen levels of a tree on Mars. And for those of you just listening, it is a cube. It's like a little golden cube with just structures on the side. It looks kind of like a glorified industrial project, like somebody that wants to build something cool. And it's gold colored for sure, but it's a cube. And for those of you who have been around, we've covered the cube. We've covered the Saturn connections, the biblical connections with the New Jerusalem, just all the occultism involved. There's just all these different things that are associated with the cube, both in the positive and negative sense and spiritually speaking. So I just thought, wow, okay, so they have a cube up there that's allegedly giving oxygen. Wow, that's pretty remarkable. You got the Borg too on Star Trek. They travel around in a giant cube. So let me continue here. There's a couple other things here talking about the experiment. This experiment is also the first to successfully harvest and use resources on any planetary body, a process that will be important not only for Martian exploration, but future lunar habitats as well. Michael Hecht is a co-author on the new paper and principal investigator of the project called MOXIE. Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment. I love how they always try to, they always have to really stretch the acronyms there. He told Motherboard in an email that researchers focused on harvesting oxygen because it would be one of the most difficult resources to bring from Earth and would have multiple roles to play in creating a sustainable habitat on Mars. Quote, I like to say rockets breathe a lot more than we do, Hecht said. Quote, just for the liftoff to orbit, the rocket will use more than 10 times the amount of fuel than the crew of 4 to 6 will use in their year-and-a-half stay on the surface, and hence it will need 10 times as much oxygen. Moxie first landed on Mars, allegedly, in February 2021, and since then has been powered up 7 different times under different seasonal and weather conditions to create oxygen using compounds in the Martian atmosphere like CO2. This air is passed through a HEPA filter to remove any dust, heated to 800 degrees Celsius, and compressed such that it breaks apart into just oxygen ions and CO2. The oxygen ions are then isolated and recombined to create breathable and combustible O2. So far, Moxie has been able to create 6 grams of oxygen per hour in each of its 7 runs, which researchers say is equivalent to a small tree. Let's see, what do I have? While Moxie is proof positive that it's possible to create oxygen on another planet, the system itself is not yet robust enough to sustain a habitat on Mars. To do that, Hecht says that researchers will need to scale Moxie up to the size of a small chest freezer. At this scale, Moxie 2.0 could create enough oxygen to either sustain 100 crew member on Mars or lift a 4-person crew off planet in the rocket. Scaling up the technology itself shouldn't be too challenging, said Hecht. I thought it was Hecht. Okay, a little typo there. Vice, go ahead and run your edit again. We find this all the time. Why are we just random armchair podcaster people having to point out mainstream media typos? Anyway, all right, scaling up the technology itself shouldn't be too challenging, says Hecht, but running the system autonomously on Mars for thousands of hours could be trickier, especially since the original Moxie has so far only run for less than 100 hours since it touched down last year. Only 100 hours. So apparently this is this is enough for research to continue, and I don't know if Elon Musk is behind this particular thing, but it just appears to me that, hey, if we can get oxygen up there, then we can get anywhere. And I'm going to just connect the story here with the story we covered, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago, maybe more, about the pigs who allegedly can absorb oxygen from their behinds, and how they're starting human trials. I just don't like where this is going, just like, oh, you need oxygen? Well, it's too slow to absorb through your nose and your mouth, just our God-given pipes. So let's just create the artificial pipe just straight into you and go from there. So anyway, the both the absurdity and the occultism here is just astounding. Yeah, and then Preston Gerard in the chat, the movie, what's the movie called? You just said it, and then it just disappeared. Total Recall. Yeah. Total Recall. That's what comes to mind, when they go out into the Martian surface and they get all huge and blow up. Yeah, maybe that wasn't from a lack of oxygen. It was from too much oxygen getting pumped into their bodies a certain way.